Oh, all right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and go over this homework assignment so we can grade it, get it all done. Uh, this is subtle. It might seem easy, but there's a lot of really important concepts at play here. So let's go over this carefully, shall we? So first part says find all missing parts of the right triangle below. And when it says missing parts, what that means is it means any missing side or any missing angle, right? Well, we know two things are going to help us with this. We learned that there are two special right triangles, right? You got the 30, 60, 90. The way that you would know which angle's the 30 and which angle's the 60 is the smallest angle will be opposite of the smallest side. So this is the smallest side, you see? It's definitely smaller than this. So if this was going to be a 30, 60, 90, it would be that. Now that's not drawn to scale, it's just a sketch, right? But here's what we know. We know that whatever this side is, the short side's 1/2. And the long side is that times the square root of 3/2. So it's going to be 1/2 of this, and the long side is going to be the hypotenuse times the square root of 3/2. That's true forever and ever, amen, for any 30, 60, 90. Doesn't matter how big or small. Now let's say we had an isosceles right triangle. Then what we know is that the two legs are the hypotenuse times the square root of 2/2. The reason we say 1 is because it doesn't matter how big this is. If you want a triangle that's 4,000 kilometers long, you would just multiply everything times 4,000. It wouldn't matter. The ratio is still exactly the same. So for example, if this was 4,000, this would be 2,000 times the square root of 2. If this was 4,000, this would be just 2,000. And this would be 2,000 times the square root of 3. Yep. And yeah, that's it. So those are the things we know. So when I see this one right here, oh man, you see that square root of 3, that's a clue that this is a 30, 60, 90. So I know this is the 30 because that's the short side. I know that's the 60. And I know that this is going to be 14 because this is half of the hypotenuse. So half of what is 7? Well, 14. And if you take 14 and you multiply it times the square root of 3/2, well, you get 7√3. So boom, done, good. All right, this is 45. That's a right triangle, so this is 45. Yeah? Okay, and that's M. That means this is M, for sure. All right, so, man, whatever the hypotenuse is, if I multiply that times the square root of 2/2, I get this. Do you see? So the short side is the hypotenuse times the square root of 2/2. Do you see? And I need to know what the hypotenuse is, so I need to solve this. So I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal. Yeah? Like that. So 2m over the square root of 2 is the hypotenuse. This is the hypotenuse right here. But that's that denominator. That denominator right there is irrational. We need to rationalize the denominator, so do that. So here's what we got. We got 2m root 2 over 2, so that's just this right here reduces to, I'm running out of room over here. I'm going to erase that. So here's what we got. M times the square root of 2. Now if we wanted to check that using this shortcut right here, we can do that. Hold on, let me grab a piece of paper. All right, so check this out. Here's what we got. I just want to make sure this makes sense. So we know that we're saying that this is m root 2, and we're saying this is an isosceles right triangle. So the question is this really m? Well, whatever the hypotenuse is, right? So here's our shortcut for 45, 45, 90. We're saying that whatever the hypotenuse is, to figure out the legs, we just multiply that hypotenuse times the square root of 2/2. So this is the hypotenuse. If I multiply that by the square root of 2/2, do I get just m? Well, square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is 2, right? It works. That's right. Very subtle, very tricky. All right. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the next one here, shall we? For this one, 5√2. And if this one says it's also an isosceles right triangle, so to figure this out, I've got to multiply whatever the hypotenuse is times the square root of 2/2, right? Well, the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is 2. 2 divided by 2 makes 1. So this is 5, and that's 5. Boom, done. All right, if that's 60, this is 30 because it is a right triangle, right? So this is going to be 9/2, right? So whatever the hypotenuse is, the short side is that number, the hypotenuse, times 1/2. Okay? And so this is going to be 9 root 3 over 2. There we go. All right, now this is a 45. These were 45 also. I didn't write it in there. I was supposed to, because we're supposed to fill out all missing sides, all missing angles. So this one, boom, done. And this one is 1/2 and the square root of 3 over 2 times 1, right? So the idea is that if you're seeing something about a square root of 3 in a right triangle, it's very good chance that it could be a right triangle. Here, I know this is true. I know this is a 30, 60, 90 because the long leg is the short leg times the square root of 3. Yeah, see? See, the long leg is the short leg times the square root of 3. 1/2 times the square root of 3 is root 3 over 2. Okay, now, tangent of 30. Well, you know, got to remember our SOHCAHTOA stuff, right? Especially if trig is new. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. Tangent of 30 degrees. So tangent of 30 degrees is going to be the opposite over the adjacent. And it doesn't matter how big or small the triangle is. So we have this triangle right here. Do you see? Here's 30 degrees. Opposite, we can use this one, is 7, and adjacent is 7 root 3. Well, we gotta simplify that, right? So let's do that over here in our scratch work. So 7 divided by 7 is 1. And then when we rationalize the denominator, that's what we're going to get, right? And then where that comes from is, the thing is, when we write a fraction, we want the denominator to be a rational number. The square root of 3 is irrational. Square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is 3. Boom, done. See? Showing you work. That's where it came from. Now, tangent, excuse me, of 60. Probably should drink some coffee, right? All right, tangent of 60. Tangent of 60 is opposite over adjacent as well, but here's 60. So now, if we're going to use that triangle up here, tangent of 60, here's 60, opposite is this, adjacent is 7, so it's 7 root 3 over 7. That one's a little simpler. 7 divided by 7 reduces, you're just left with the square root of 3. Do you see? So this one, let me write my answer here, square root of 3 over 3. And this one 3. Now, if we were going to use a calculator to check it, and I do want you to be able to figure these things out without a calculator, because there are lots of times where you won't be able to use a calculator, and there are lots of times where you need to recognize some facts that a calculator is really not going to bring to mind. So here's what I want to do. I just want to verify square root of 3 over 3. Square root of 3 divided by 3 equals 0.577. Tangent of 30. 0.577. Do you see? Now, tangent of 60 is 1.73. The square root of 3, same thing. You see? All right. Now, sine of 45 degrees. Well, that's going to be the square root of 2 over 2. Yeah? Now, one of the things you guys have to start to remember is that the square root of 2 over 2 is, you got to know the approximation, 0.177. I mean, sorry. I said it wrong. I was thinking it's root 3 over 2. This is just 0.866. So, no, I said it right. So, watch. Check this out. Here's what you got to know. Square root of 2 divided by 2 is 0.707. Do you see? So, you got to recognize both. Now, don't get yourself confused. This is approximate. This is exact. The reason I know the sine of 45 degrees is this because, well, look at this triangle right here. Sine is opposite. There's opposite over hypotenuse, right? So sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so it's square root of 2 over 2 divided by 1. And, yeah, 0.707. Whereas you also need to recognize the square root of 3 over 2 is 0.866. So check it out. These are some values that you've got to recognize. You got to know that when you see the square root of 3 over 2, it's going to be 0.866. Root 2 over 2 is 707, and this one is approximately 0.866. Okay, sine of 60. Here's 60. 60 is opposite. Sorry, sine is opposite over adjacent, so it's going to be the square root of 3 over 2 divided by 1, right? And that's 0.866. So you got to recognize. You got to remember these two numbers right here. You've got to memorize these. You got to know that this square root of 2 over 2 is 0.707. You've got to know square root of 3 over 2 is 0.866. Okay, cosine of 60. Well, that's going to be the same as sine of 30. All right, cosine of 60. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So that's going to be 1/2. And I think you guys all know that that's 0.5. All right, so grade it. Let me know what questions you have. Leave me a comment down below with any questions, comments, likes, concerns, all that. I hope you guys are doing well. Hope to see you soon.